I cannot wrap my head around all of this. It feels too far-fetched to be true. Just last week, my biggest concern was finding the perfect birthday gift for my mom. Now, I am grappling with the idea that spirits might actually exist. And not just exist, but that they could be kind, cruel, or anything in between. What is worse, I need to figure out if the entity I have stumbled upon, if it is real, is a force for good or something far more sinister. From everything I have pieced together so far, it seems like the answer lies in one's relationship with the truth, or perhaps the ability to guard it. I am going to share the whole story with you. Maybe you can help me figure out what to do with this thing, this doll. The one that talked to me. I cannot ignore it anymore. The more I uncover about its origins, the more unsettling it becomes. It all started with what should have been a simple errand. I was scrambling to find a last-minute gift for my mom's birthday. Honestly, I should not have left it until the 11th hour, but my packed work schedule left me little time to shop. Mom always seemed a little let down when I ordered her gifts online. I could tell she wanted something more personal. She has always had such unique tastes, and I knew she would appreciate something that felt handpicked. So, I decided to go the extra mile and search in person. I opted to check out a few antique shops near her town. It is a small place, and I was not entirely sure what I would find, but I figured something quaint or nostalgic might be the perfect fit. After striking out at a couple of places, I came across a shop that immediately caught my eye. It was called Timeless Treasures, and its weathered sign and cluttered window display made me think it might have just what I needed. The moment I stepped inside, I was hit with that distinct, old shop smell, a mix of must and mothballs. It was like stepping into a time capsule. Everything felt a bit stale, like the air itself had not been refreshed in decades. But, considering the place dealt in antiques, I figured that was par for the course. I pushed past the slightly oppressive atmosphere and began to browse. Most of what I saw at first was not really worth a second glance. Trinkets, dusty books, and faded knickknacks. Then I noticed a shelf with a row of porcelain dolls. My mom had loved collecting those when she was younger, though most of her collection was lost years ago. She only had a handful left, so I knew this would be a meaningful gift. I grabbed one of the two dolls on display. The doll I picked up had a layer of dust that I brushed off carefully. It wore a tiny Victorian-style blue dress, and its light brown hair framed a face that was intricately painted, though it had a stern expression. As I held it, a strange feeling washed over me, a kind of foggy, out-of-body sensation. It was like my mind drifted somewhere else for a moment, and I nearly lost track of time. Shaking off the weird feeling, I glanced at the other doll on the shelf. This one wore a tattered yellow dress, had curly red hair, and its face bore a cracked, almost sorrowful expression. Despite the odd vibe I got from the blue dress doll, I decided to stick with it. Blue is my mom's favorite color, and I thought she would appreciate it more than the other one. When I approached the counter, an older woman emerged from behind it. She had a cloud of white hair, thick glasses perched on her nose, and a sharp gaze. Placing both hands firmly on the counter, she leaned forward to get a good look at me. Then she adjusted her glasses and spoke in a warm but peculiar tone. "Well, now, let us see what you have got there." "Ah, yes, that one is a real beauty," she said, motioning to the doll. Then, with a chuckle that turned into a full-blown laugh, she added, "But between you and me, she has been known to cause a bit of trouble." I forced a smile, unsure of what she found so amusing. Trouble? It was just a doll. For a moment, I worried she was about to launch into some long-winded tale about the doll's history or significance. I must have looked uncomfortable because she quickly composed herself and continued. "She is called Matilda. A truer friend you will not find, provided you treat her with the respect she deserves." Her tone shifted as if she were talking to herself more than to me. Then, almost abruptly, she snapped back to attention. "That will be $115. Do you want a bag for her?" The price startled me, and I opened my mouth to haggle, but she cut me off. "Look, I know she is expensive," She is rare and valuable, you see. But I will give you a special deal, $80 final offer. I still have to keep the lights on. She smiled, but not at me, at the doll. Her behavior was giving me the creeps, but I wanted to be done with the whole encounter. I agreed. She wrapped the doll carefully, adding, "Handle her gently. She is delicate, like the truth itself, fragile, yet powerful." I thanked her and left, determined to forget the strange exchange and just focus on how happy Mom would be with her gift. Later that evening, I was back home, wrapping up some chores before bed. I had planned to rewrap the doll in something nicer but decided to leave it for the next day. I was exhausted. As I checked my phone before turning in, I noticed a notification. My new phone charger had been delivered. Relieved, I went to grab it from the porch, but the package was missing. Once again, a thief had snatched it. Frustrated, I cursed under my breath and headed back inside. That is when I heard it. A faint sound, like someone softly singing. It was coming from the room where I had left the doll. My chest tightened, and I slowly walked in to investigate. The room was empty, and the singing had stopped. I stood there in silence, questioning my sanity. As I stood there in the quiet room, I suddenly heard another sound, a faint whisper. It was so soft that it felt as though it came from far away or from someone speaking just out of reach. I froze, trying to make out the words, but they remained elusive. My eyes darted around the room, searching for the source. Then it dawned on me, the doll. It had to be the doll. My logical side jumped in, reasoning that it might have a voice box. While I did not think porcelain dolls typically came with such features, it was not impossible. Someone could have installed one, maybe as a novelty or a prank. Curious, I retrieved the doll from the bag and examined it closely. Its painted face, which I remembered as moody and stern, now seemed different, softer, almost as if it were smiling faintly. I told myself it was just my imagination, that I was remembering wrong. Shaking off the unease, I inspected the doll for any signs of a button, a string, or anything that might activate a hidden audio device. Minutes passed with no results. Finally, on a whim, I spoke aloud, feeling slightly ridiculous. "Hello." There was a pause, long enough for me to feel foolish for trying. I sighed, about to set the doll down, when suddenly, something answered. "Hello. My name is Matilda. Nice to meet you." The response did not come from a speaker or any obvious source. In fact, it did not seem to come from outside me at all. It was as though the words had been planted directly into my mind, an intrusive thought that was distinctly not my own. The voice startled me so much that I nearly dropped the doll. My heart raced, but curiosity won out over fear. I steadied myself and tried again. "Hello, Matilda." Another pause. Then, once more, the voice appeared in my mind, as clear as my own thoughts. "Will you be my friend?" The absurdity of the situation overwhelmed me. I wondered if I was hallucinating, but the experience felt too vivid, too real to dismiss. What unnerved me most was the undeniable fact that the voice, though in my head, was distinctly not mine. While I debated my sanity, I glanced back at the doll. Its expression had changed again. Now it looked profoundly sad, as though my delay in answering had hurt its feelings. Feeling an odd mix of guilt and fascination, I decided to play along. "Yes, yes, of course. I'll be your friend." The response was immediate, almost jubilant. The voice practically shouted into my mind. "Great! That's so great. Thank you. I promise I'll be a true friend to you if you are always true to me. I can see many things, but I won't look into you. I'll only speak to you because you're my friend, and I trust you." The words were strange yet comforting in their sincerity. I was fascinated and unnerved in equal measure. I decided to press forward while the bizarre conversation was still happening. "Matilda, I'm sorry to be so direct, but what are you? Are you a spirit? A demon? Something else entirely?" This time, the pause felt heavier, as though she were contemplating her answer. Finally, she replied, "I'm me. Just Matilda, I think. I don't know what I am besides a doll. I think I've always been this way. I remember having a sister. She was a doll too. And someone else. But it's blurry. My memory isn't very good. What I do know is that it's my job to see things in others, to see the truth, and to help my friends." Her answer, though cryptic, did not seem malicious. If anything, it felt almost innocent. I chuckled softly at the sheer absurdity of it all. A sentient doll claiming to be some sort of truth seeker. The insane conversation was interrupted by a far more mundane annoyance. Loud music blaring from my neighbor's house. I groaned. Every Sunday, without fail, he had people over and cranked up the volume late into the night. Despite my early Monday shifts, he never seemed to care, no matter how often I asked him to keep it down. Once, I even called the cops when it got out of hand, and ever since, his attitude toward me had grown downright hostile. Frustration boiled over as I thought about how little sleep I'd get tonight, especially with an early morning plan to pick up flowers for my mom. Just then, the doll's voice interrupted my annoyed thoughts, this time softer, almost tentative. "What's wrong, my friend? You seem upset." For a moment, I had forgotten I was talking to a sentient doll. Then I figured, why not vent? I had already shared so much with her. "It's my neighbor. He plays music so loud on Sundays I can't sleep. I have to get up early tomorrow, and it's always the same thing. He's inconsiderate, and I'm exhausted." Matilda's response was unexpected. "Would you bring me over there? Maybe I can help." I almost laughed out loud. The idea of bringing my mom's birthday gift, this psychic talking doll, over to my neighbor's house to solve a noise complaint was absurd. Yet a part of me wondered, what if? My dismissive tone must have been obvious because I swear Matilda's painted face grew sad again. Feeling a pang of guilt, or perhaps a sense of obligation to this bizarre new friend, I relented. If this was a dream, why not indulge it? I crossed the yard, still in my robe and sweatpants, holding the doll awkwardly against my chest like a ventriloquist who'd just rolled out of bed. As I neared my neighbor's house, Matilda spoke again, her voice threading softly into my thoughts. "This is close enough, thank you. Please wait a moment." I stopped in the middle of Glenn's lawn, confused and self-conscious, clutching the doll while trying not to look like a lunatic. I felt absurd, standing there in the chilly night, but the weight of the doll in my arms seemed different now, present yet strangely absent, as if she were both with me and elsewhere entirely. The music stopped abruptly. My first thought was that someone had spotted me through a window, but before I could decide whether to leave, I heard muffled shouting from inside. It wasn't the usual drunken revelry. These were heated voices, sharp and emotional, unmistakably an argument. Just as I considered moving closer, Matilda's voice returned, calm and matter-of-fact. "Your neighbor is a liar. I don't like liars. So many secrets, deceptions, lies. He hid his relationship with another woman from his girlfriend. She knows now. She is not happy. She will leave soon, and he will either follow her or sulk. He will not feel like partying for the rest of the night. My friend will have peace." The words chilled me. I edged closer to the window, careful to stay out of sight. The shouting inside was unmistakable now. "She's just a work friend. It's not what you think, Cindy. Come on, you're really just going to leave over a misunderstanding." There was a sharp crack, a slap, and then a cold reply. "Fuck you, Glenn." The front door flew open, and I scrambled into the bushes, heart pounding. Cindy stormed past, suitcase in hand, as Glenn stumbled after her, still pleading. "Wait, come on, Cindy. Don't do this." His desperation faded as she slammed the car door and drove off. Glenn stood in the driveway, stunned, before retreating inside. Moments later, the sound of objects breaking and angry yelling echoed through the house, followed by sobs. I sat frozen, half hidden in the damp grass, struggling to process what had just happened. Matilda had claimed to tell the truth. But how had she known these secrets? How had she caused this chain of events? Unease crept over me as I looked down at her. The doll's face was no longer neutral. A wide, wicked smile now stretched across it, radiating satisfaction. I swallowed hard and asked the question I wasn't sure I wanted answered. What was that? What did you do? Her response was immediate and eerily cheerful. I just told the truth. Glenn is a bad man, a liar and a thief. He took 3 packages from you. They're in his garage. You should get them back. For a moment I couldn't speak. The weight of her words and the implications left me stunned. But before I could respond, I heard the garage door rumble open. Glenn's car pulled out, and Matilda's voice returned, calm and knowing. He's going after her now. You can check the garage. A rush of adrenaline overtook me. I waited until his car disappeared down the street, then hurried to the open garage door, slipping inside just before it closed. The sight stopped me cold. 3 Amazon boxes sat in the corner, all addressed to me. My name, my address, clear as day. I stared, anger and disbelief bubbling to the surface. I had no idea why Glenn had stolen them. Maybe it was out of spite for the time I'd called the cops. Whatever his reason, Matilda had been right. I looked down at her, her painted grin unwavering, and whispered, Thank you, Matilda." Her eyes, now closed, seemed almost serene. Her voice, however, came back sharp and chilling. "Anything for my friend. And if you like, I can do more. Now that I've seen inside him, I can reach him. Glenn is full of doubts about his life, his choices, his future. If I press just the right places, I could make him crash his car. It would be quick. Final. No more noise, no more theft. Would that make you happy, my friend?" The suggestion hit me like a physical blow. My stomach churned, and my chest tightened as the weight of her words sank in. I looked down at her, horrified. The painted grin now felt menacing, her previous innocence replaced with something darker. The trouble the shopkeeper had mentioned suddenly loomed large in my mind. I forced myself to stay calm, to mask the fear rising in my throat. I had no idea what Matilda was capable of, but one thing was clear. Disappointing her was not an option. I said to her firmly, "No, that will not be necessary. I got my boxes back, and everything is calm now. Thank you again, Clara. Honestly, I think I need a drink and maybe a good lie down. Hopefully, when I wake up, I will not find myself in a padded room wondering if this whole night was just my mind playing tricks on me." With that, I turned and made my way back to my house. Once inside, I placed Clara on the dining room table and headed toward my bedroom. As I walked away, I heard a faint voice at the edge of my mind. It sounded distant, almost hesitant. Then, the voice became clearer, gentle and tinged with a bit of sadness. "Did I do something wrong? You looked worried. Are you afraid of me?" I stopped in my tracks, startled by the question, though deep down, it did not surprise me. I had promised myself I would be honest with her, so I admitted, "Yes, I am a little afraid right now. I am sorry, but I was not prepared for everything you can apparently do. I just need some time to process." There was a moment of silence before she responded softly, "Oh, I see. Well, good night, friend. Sleep well. I will talk to you tomorrow." As her voice faded, it was as if she had slipped into a dormant state. She remained silent on the table where I had placed her, and after standing there for another moment to ensure no further communication, I headed to my room. Once inside, I shut the door and sat on the edge of my bed, trying to make sense of the insanity that had unfolded throughout the day. The more I thought about it, the more I realized there was no way I could give Clara to my mother. Not now. I had no idea how she might react, or worse, if it would even be safe to try. Eventually, after what felt like hours of tossing thoughts around in my head, my mind quieted enough for me to drift off to sleep. My dreams that night were vivid and strange. I dreamt I was tiny, perched on a massive shelf while enormous figures moved around me. I could hear their voices, but I could also hear their thoughts. A chaotic storm of noise that almost overwhelmed me. Just when it felt unbearable, I managed to block it all out, seemingly through sheer willpower. In the haze of my restless dreams, a word surfaced again and again. Ruby. The name lingered, though I had no idea who Ruby was or why she occupied my thoughts. The jarring sound of my alarm snapped me out of sleep. Groggy and unrest, I sat up with a start, remembering I needed to find a replacement gift for my mom. I was not going to give her Clara, which left me scrambling for another option before breakfast. I rushed to get ready and bolted out the door. I had no idea what stores would be open so early, but I was determined to find something meaningful within the hour. As I was leaving, I felt an odd sensation, a subtle pull at the back of my mind. Clara was trying to get my attention. "What is it?" I asked aloud, already suspecting what she wanted. She replied gently, "I want to come with you. I promise I will not say anything to your mom. You can even keep me in a bag if that makes you more comfortable. I just do not want to be left on a shelf anymore. I want to be close by, ready to help if my friends ever need me." Her words tugged at my conscience, and after a moment of hesitation, I relented. "All right, you can come, but you have to stay in the backpack and not make a sound. Deal?" "Deal," she said, her tone brightening. With Clara safely stowed in my bag, I headed downtown to check the thrift shops for a suitable gift. Luck was on my side. In the very first store, I found a beautiful music box that seemed perfect. Relieved, I paid for it and hurried back to my car, eager to make it to my mom's house on time. As I stood at the crosswalk waiting for the signal, the light changed, and I started across the street. Suddenly, a loud car horn blared, and the screech of tires filled the air. A bright red sports car skidded to a halt just inches away from me. The driver, furious, leaned out the window, shouting angrily. Despite the crosswalk signaling it was safe for pedestrians, he had tried to turn, nearly running me down in the process. "Hurry up and cross, you worthless idiot!" the driver yelled, his voice dripping with hostility. I froze, stunned by the sheer aggression, then anger bubbled up inside me. I shot him a glare, raised a single finger in response, and shouted, "How about you learn to read the sign, jackass? It says walk." I thought that would be the end of it, but to my disbelief, the man revved his engine and sped forward, brushing past me and clipping my side as he tore off. I stood there, stunned and shaking, brushing myself off as best as I could. I hurried back to my car, my heart pounding and my nerves rattled. Sliding into the driver's seat, I gripped the wheel, trying to steady my breathing. That was when her voice crept softly into my mind, tentative yet comforting. "Are you all right?" Hearing Clara's voice somehow made me feel better for the first time all morning. The strangeness of speaking with her was already starting to fade. "I am okay," I replied out loud. That was way too close, though. I could almost picture her concerned expression as she responded, "I am sorry you went through that. Some people are just awful. They think only of themselves. Honestly, the world would be better off without people like that." Her words, though well-meaning, made me uneasy. Still, I let my frustration guide me as I muttered, "You are not wrong. We would all be better off without reckless jerks like that." I started the car and drove off, too distracted to notice the subtle change in the air, the absence of her usual presence. When I got to my mom's house, she greeted me with her usual warmth. We went inside, and I handed her the music box I had found. Her eyes lit up, and I could tell I had made the right choice. She thanked me, and as we sat chatting, I asked her how she was doing. "Oh, me? Do not worry about me, sweetie. I am doing just fine," she said with a smile that seemed just a little too practiced. "Are you having anyone else over today?" I asked casually. She hesitated briefly, then shook her head. "No, just you today. I am keeping things low-key this year. Do not fuss over me." I nodded, not thinking much of it, at least at first. But then Clara's voice gently nudged into my mind again, this time with a revelation that sent a chill down my spine. Your mother is lying. She is still seeing someone named Daniel. I froze. For a moment, I tried to push Clara's voice away, unwilling to accept her words. But the name she mentioned struck a nerve. Daniel was my mom's first boyfriend after she and Dad separated. He had been charming at first, but I soon learned he was a selfish, manipulative man. A retired airline pilot, he had a habit of blowing through money and stringing along multiple women in different cities. He had drained a significant chunk of my mom's savings before they broke up. The idea that he might be back in her life made my stomach turn. The silence stretched between us, and my mom started to fidget, clearly sensing my unease. She stood abruptly, offering to make tea before disappearing into the kitchen. Left alone in the living room, I turned my focus inward and addressed Clara. Please stop reading my mom's mind, I thought firmly. I know you are trying to help, but it is making me uncomfortable. There was a pause, then a quiet, almost apologetic response. I am sorry if I upset you, my friend. I just do not like it when people lie, especially not to someone I care about. If her lies are hurting you, I can make sure she never lies again. Her words sent ice through my veins.
Ista maratalot. No.
Absolutely not. Why would you even suggest that? Another long pause followed before she replied in a meek voice. I was only trying to help. I am sorry if I upset you. I felt a pang of guilt at my harsh reaction but could not shake the unease that her suggestion had stirred. Despite everything, I found myself feeling sorry for her. It was a surreal moment, sitting there feeling bad for a doll that had just threatened my mother's life. The rest of the visit passed uneventfully, though there was an undercurrent of awkwardness. I left earlier than usual, suspecting my mom had plans with Daniel later that day. On my drive home, I nearly rear-ended the car in front of me when I encountered an unexpected traffic jam. As I inched forward, I saw what had caused the congestion. A bright red sports car flipped upside down, blocking the road. My heart sank when I recognized it as the car that had nearly run me down earlier. There were police everywhere, and the scene had been cordoned off. I spotted a body bag on the pavement and felt a wave of unease. The driver was dead. Later that night, I saw a news report detailing the incident. The man had attacked responding officers after flipping his car, ranting about the truth they supposedly knew about him. Witnesses claimed he had deliberately provoked the officers, forcing them to shoot him. His last words echoed in my mind. We would all be better off without reckless jerks like me in the world. A cold dread settled over me. I thought back to my conversation with Clara and turned to look at her where she sat on the counter, her porcelain face smiling serenely. That night, before bed, I summoned the courage to confront her. Clara, I need you to be honest with me. What did you do today? There was a brief pause, then a soft, almost playful laugh followed by her response. I only did what you said, my friend. I showed someone the truth. And you were right. The world is better off without reckless jerks like that. My throat tightened as I muttered a shaky, "Good night, Clara." As her presence faded, I was left with a growing sense of dread. I knew I had to figure out what to do about my friend before someone else got caught in her twisted version of justice.